Today I would like to introduce you to my dear friend Peter. Peter is a very dedicated Vipassana yogi in the ASEAN Goenka tradition. I met Peter in 2018. That was my second Vipassana retreat at Blackheath. At that time I can just remember seeing him sitting at the first row, very still, working through his stuff. Without moving a little bit, I was quite intrigued by him. And later I got a chance to talk to him and know that he has great interest in Chinese culture, completely fluent in Chinese. Also living in a lifestyle I admire, traveling around the world, visiting friends, doing long-term meditation retreat to better himself, and also have a lot of interest in art, music, culture, politics, that kind of lifestyle that make him quite an inspiration to me. So I thought this episode I would invite him to have a little conversation, to let him to share about his meditation experience and tips while I'm cutting his hair. So please enjoy. What we're going to do.
What are we going to do?
Sorry, how can I help you, Peter?
How can you help me? You can help me by giving me a nice haircut, Tim.
So we're cutting the sides and back.
Yeah, the sides and the back. Yeah, I like you have a zero on the side and the back. I don't mind how short it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like left a bit long on the top, I think.
Yeah, do you still want me to trim it slightly?
It's up to you really. If you think it needs a trim, maybe even happy to have it left long today, and then we can maybe trim it next time.
Yeah, I'll say maybe I'll just...
So it's a bit longer, or whatever, you just trim the ends, or
I'll
whatever
probably
you'd like
just
to
trim
do.
the end.
Sure,
But just make the shape slightly.
Yeah.
And then just leave the top.
Yeah.
Because the back will sit much better.
Sure.
So Peter, I'm interested, so what's your journey to meditation?
So you'd like to know something about my journey into meditation?
Yeah.
Well, I've been I've been interested in meditation for a very long time. I can still remember when I visited India I visited India for the first time in 1976. So I was reading books related to religious life in India, which of course touched on meditation. My study of Chinese had taken me also into Chinese religious practice, particularly Buddhism, and obviously meditation is an important part of Buddhism. So I was intellectually quite interested in meditation. My interest in practice probably came from my stay in Beijing actually in 2000, and I met Buddhist practitioners probably for the first time, serious practitioners, and I got to know them, and so I got to see what they did and talk to them a little bit about their practice. And I really had the opportunity at the time to proceed further. After I finished work, I retired from my work in about 2009, 2010, and so I had much more control over my own time. So I decided that I would like to find out more about meditation. Fortunately, when I was working in Hong Kong, we had a teacher, a young woman who used to come to teach us yoga twice a week, and she was a Buddhist, and I got talking to her one day, and she said, if you're interested in meditation, there is a course that you can do that I can introduce you to. So through her I did my first 7-day Zen retreat in a temple outside Taipei, which was very interesting and quite strict. And it was a silent retreat, but it was physically quite demanding because we had to sit cross-legged on the floor, and we had to try and sit in lotus, and so it was all we learned a lot in the discourses about history of Zen meditation, which was interesting. So I became a bit more interested, but in terms of practice, it didn't do very much for me. I think not long after, I did another yoga retreat combined with meditation in Thailand, which introduced me to Anapana meditation, or that aspect of meditating. Then another year I did a yoga retreat in the United States, a big yoga center which had a meditation aspect to it. So I learned a little bit more about whatever meditation was, but I didn't really feel that I had really learned to meditate. The instruction usually being, well, just sit quietly and calm your mind and meditate, which really wasn't very helpful. So I did my first Vipassana retreat when I was in Hong Kong. I was in China. So I came down to Hong Kong and did my first Vipassana retreat. And I felt that the way it was taught actually taught me a technique for meditation that was very, very useful. So I felt that I was moving in the right direction in terms of learning the technique of meditation, how to go about quietening your mind, how to learn to sit still, keeping your body and your mind firm, and learning some of the theory, mainly in relation to Buddhism, that was associated with Vipassana practice. So since then I've been more or less, after my first 10-day Vipassana retreat, I decided I would like to do a 10-day retreat every year. And so I did that for a couple of years.
Can you share your experience of your first Vipassana experience retreat?
I suppose, like most people, it was at first very difficult and very trying. There were a lot of obstacles, just purely physical ones. I don't think I was quite prepared for how physically difficult it is just to sit still. And then of course the next immediate or the discovery that you make very quickly is that it's also very difficult to keep your mind still, keep it from jumping around. And this is the essence really of the first part of the practice, I think, learning to do that. So you, like most of the students in their first course, you go through all the difficulties of just physically and mentally keeping still. And by about the 8th or the 9th day, you think, oh yes, I think I can at least sit still now, I can bear all the pain, and I have some understanding of how my body and my mind interact with each other, and I have some understanding of how important change is in understanding what you're doing. At the end of my first 10-day retreat, had quite a strong experience, both of some kind of deep association between the mind and the body. I can just put it that way. So I thought this was very significant. And if this is something that meditation can do, this is obviously, if this is something this technique can do, this is quite important. This is a significant technique that helps you on the path to self-understanding. And I think that's quite an important aspect of what one's doing when one meditates.
So now you have sit and served many retreats. How have you grow as a person compared to when you started this path?
I served my most recent 10-day course in April this year, or April and May, in New Zealand, outside of Auckland actually. It's a nice small centre. That was, I think, my seventh time I had served, and I think this next retreat will be the 8th course that I've actually sat. So I feel I've done quite a few courses now. So my first course was the beginning of 2015, so I'm now in my 8th year of practicing. I probably didn't start practicing seriously with a morning and evening 1 hour meditation strictly until about 2 years after I started, so about 2017, so that's maybe about 6 years ago. So I think how you change once meditation has become part of what you do every single day, it makes you, I suppose, more self-conscious of what is happening in your mind, particularly if you might be irritated about something, or even if you're having a strong emotion, either positively or negatively, you can at least observe that and see where it goes. And the object is, of course, not to react too adversely either to the positive or the negative kind of emotion. So that's one thing. I think it's made me more patient as a person with other people. And I suppose this is another aspect of Vipassana because of the metta component, where it's not just about you, but it's about your effect on other people and their effect on you. So one is, I think it's probably made me maybe that a little bit more conscious of what my effect will be on people around me and what their effect is on me, and particularly if it might be a negative kind of situation, then I would like to think that it's made me a little bit more patient with the negative situations around me, so I'm not going to fly off the handle and maybe make some inappropriate kind of comment that might aggravate a situation. That's probably quite a useful thing. More recently, it goes along with the kind of things that I read, and I suppose what I'm sort of interested in terms of, I suppose, more philosophical kind of ideas. So the idea of change has become quite important, maybe an object of my attention, and how, what does it actually mean when we say that things are changing all the time? So you cutting my hair means that my hair is being changed, and our interaction as we engage in this process, all sorts of changes are taking place. So that's at a very superficial level. I think as you meditate, you have the ability to go more deeply inside yourself, become more aware of what's happening inside. Seeing we spend most of the time through our senses engaging with what's outside, it's quite important to have a technique that takes us inside ourselves, and sort of, I think, how change is occurring inside is quite important, and that's something that perhaps I've become more aware of in the course of doing meditation.
Your first retreat, you said towards the last few days, you had a profound realization of how the mind, body and mind, their relationship. But does have that direct experience impact you how you live your day?
One of the direct impacts of the experience of my first Vipassana meditation retreat was my decision to continue with the practice and to develop the practice and which is what I've been doing. And so I wouldn't be about to go on a 20-day retreat if that had not happened, I don't think. So I think it injected some significant meaning into the practice for me. And obviously if you didn't think the practice was meaningful, then of course you wouldn't do it. So I suppose one way to answer your question would be that it's given me a firmer conviction that meditation offers an important path to self-discovery. I'll put it that way.
I also know that you've been sit and serve multiple times. Serve for 7 times.
Yeah.
Almost 8 times. So what is the thing you learn in serving that you don't get to necessarily learn in sitting?
The advantage of serving when you still have to sit 3 times a day with the students is a way of combining what happens on the mat with what happens in daily life. If you're just sitting 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening, I mean, you take some things with you, but very quickly all the activities of the day, I suppose, swamp what may have ever happened to you in the morning and what may have happened in the evening. But if you're serving, as soon as you go back when you go back in the kitchen, you are still aware of what was happening in the meditation hall. And it makes you much more acutely aware, really, of everything that happens, means paying attention, to what you may be doing in the kitchen, whether you're chopping up lettuce or, sweeping the floor or, carrying out some rubbish. How you're interacting with your fellow servers, what's happening in the atmosphere in the kitchen, what's your reaction to the atmosphere in the kitchen. So all of that level of self-consciousness that I mentioned becomes very, very clear when you serve on a course, I think, and that's very useful. And I think this is kind of the object of taking your daily practice and making it something that has a more significant influence on your daily life when you're not in a situation of being, serving on a course. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Now. So so the serving is very important. I think once you have served, once you sit and you think, yes, I've learned this technique, but the application of the technique and how it can impact on your daily life, I think it's only when you serve, or for me at least, I should say, serving was an important way to come to an understanding of how useful the practice is in your daily life.
Yeah. Nowadays there's so many people interested in meditation. They tried a few apps or they gone to some courses, but I often see people said, I can't meditate, or I don't have time to meditate. What's your take on
I think if you are interested in doing something and you are motivated, you will find time to do it. And I think that's all there is to it, really. I mean, there can always be a reason not to do something, but by the same token, there will always be a reason to actually take some action. So if you're strongly motivated and you are interested, then you will actually do it. And I think meditation is it's something that you really have to do. The actual attendance at a course, the fact that it's silent, the fact that you spend 10 hours a day in the hall learning to meditate. These are things that really you can't, there are so many things that you can't get from sitting in front of your computer at home and just following the instructions from an app. I think it's the actual regulation of the day, the program over the 10 days. I mean, everything is highly conducive to working out what the practical implications of meditation are. And I think one of the important things is just being able to, the difference between sitting in front of your computer and stilling your mind and listening to an app, and I suppose the difference between actually sitting in meditation hall with fellow meditators. That's probably another thing that I discovered. I think more and more there is your motivation can be greatly enhanced by having people around you who are engaged in a common activity and have a common objective. And you really do feel the energy increasing over the span of a course as people work out kind of what's going on. And that's a very inspiring kind of thing, and it's highly motivating.
That's nice. So now I'm going to dry your hair.
Mm-hmm.
Then we will review
Sure.
the hand result.
Sure.
There you have it, our little conversation / haircut with Peter. I hope you enjoy it. If you guys want to see more, have any ideas or any questions, or your meditation journey you would like to share, please leave your comments below. And also, if you'd like to support my channel, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification. Thank you.